Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing another DIY, but this time we'll be working on an oversized denim jacket, and it will be off-white inspired. I'm sure most of you guys have heard that Virgil Abloh did pass away. He was my first inspiration when I started doing DIYs, and then also when I started getting into streetwear fashion as well. So yeah, it really sucks. So in this video, I'm gonna make a jacket, and I'm gonna make it like off-white style, so nothing too simple and nothing too complex. So like somewhere in the middle, you know, and hopefully it turns out okay, you know? Yeah, let's get into it. For this DIY, we're gonna be working on this oversized denim jacket that I got from Zara. I haven't really been wearing it out much lately, so I figured I might as well make some use out of it. For the most part, a lot of off-white sweaters and jackets are pretty simple when it comes to their designs, which is what I wanted to go for. Nothing too over the top, but nothing too simple. So before adding the iconic arrows in the back, I decided to hand stitch some details onto certain areas of the jacket. Instead of using regular sewing thread for the stitchings, I ended up using some size 10 crochet thread so that it'll be visible from a distance. Now, one reason why I like hand sewing details in, even though it's really time consuming, you can flip the fabric over to the other side to reveal even more designs and to see where you got lazy. I also added some hand stitching details on the top right on the front of the jacket to add some cohesion to the overall look. Maybe I should have added more, but it is what it is. In the past, I've actually made an off-white DIY where I painted in the crossed arrows, but the design was the wrong size, so I made sure to do everything right this time. First off, I taped together 2 sheets of printer paper that were actually 14 inches in length rather than the average 11 inches. With that in mind, I measured the width to be the same length to create a square. I then marked where the midpoint was and drew an X from corner to corner. After trying out a couple of measurements, I decided to make the size of the arrows 1.5 inches wide. Using the X I drew, I measured and marked 3/4 inches on each side of the line to create the shape of the crossed arrows. What you're watching right now is my first attempt in making a template, and as you can see, it's too thick. I measured 2 inches for this as the width, and yeah, it's just too thick. For the rectangle above the arrows, I measured it to be 4.5 inches by 14 inches. If you're wondering how I got these numbers, I literally measured the graphic on my computer and used that as reference, so straight off my computer screen. So if the numbers I'm using aren't working out for your project, that's pretty much how I got mine. To make sure everything looks right on the jacket, I pinned it in place and checked it out in the mirror. Also, here's how the 2-inch arrows look like. It's just the design in bold, bro. Like, it's not right. Before going any further, I looked at the jacket and it looked too simple. I wanted to add a little bit more before I finalized the arrows, since I wanted the arrows to be the top layer. I thought of adding in some pictures of Virgil, but it kind of looked weird if I put it in open areas, and it would have looked even weirder if I put it under the arrows. Would have looked like a hitman's picture or something, and that would have been awkward. I decided to just add some more hand stitchings, but in different designs along the panels that I already had some on them. The fabric I used for the crossed arrows and the box above it was from some pants I bought but never used from Boohoo Man. I'm not a fan of the fabric for wearing because it was just really stiff and there was basically no stretch, but it's perfect material for panels. I cut off one pant leg and ripped the hem and seam open to create a large flat fabric that I can mark on. When figuring out where to outline the crossed arrows template, I made sure that there was an extra 1/2 inch of space from each edge of the design, since that's where we're gonna cut, not the actual template outline. After tracing the template onto the fabric, I measured and marked 1/2 inch from each edge and then connected the markings to form a thicker arrow design. Like I said earlier, the new markings made is where you're gonna cut out the arrows. I use fabric cutting scissors to be more precise, but it doesn't have to be the straightest cuts. Once it's cut out, cut a slit that reaches the true template outline, or 1/2 inch every couple of inches from each other. For the corners, cut them out like how I did in the video, since they're just going to overlap when you fold them. The reason why we're doing this is so that we can fold the edge on the actual template outline and then iron it down to create a clean edge rather than leaving it unhemmed. Since there's only straight edges and no curves in the arrows or the box above it, you don't have to make too many slits and you can space them out a bit further from each other. Now we can sew in the arrow and the box design. It's important to make sure they're both centered, that they align with each other on the edges, and the wings of the arrows aren't slanted. You gotta make sure they form like a box, you know? Once you think you got the positioning right, sew in a small knot in a few areas to keep it in place when you start sewing. For the next step, we gotta make some stencils. I created the words and dates in the font I wanted on Photoshop and sized them to how I figured they'd look good on the jacket. Now, instead of using vinyl to create the stencils, I used poster paper. This way I can reuse them multiple times and it's a lot cheaper than using vinyl. Once everything is cut out and at the size you want, place them where they gotta go, tape them down, and cover the surrounding areas you don't want paint on. Since the fabric isn't flat, I sewed down the islands in the numbers and letters to keep them from elevating and to prevent paint from getting underneath them. I got some black fabric spray paint from Amazon to spray onto the stencils. The can said to spray with light coats, but I just kept spraying until I filled the entire thing. I sprayed on about 3 coats with about 5-minute intervals between each coating and then let it dry overnight. Now I'm pretty sure you don't have to wait that long, but I just wanted to be safe. I wanted to add a black panel on the front of the jacket on the left chest pocket, so I traced an outline of the area I wanted to put the panel on, and then just like the cross arrows, I drew a 1/2 inch outline so that I can fold into a hem to make it look clean when I sewed it on. Before starting, I cut a slit for the button to pop through, which also allowed the panel to sit flat on the jacket, giving me an easier time when sewing. The last thing I wanted to add to the jacket was a red accent piece on the left chest pocket flap to represent a heart. I did the same method as the black panel to the red panel and sewed it on. To make an accurate buttonhole without guessing and accidentally cutting the wrong thing, I took some fabric cutting scissors and used the original buttonhole as a guide to cut through. Now for the very last step, and that's to secure and strengthen the buttonhole. To do this, I made a lot of close loop stitches around the entire hole, making sure there wasn't any stray fraying strands that would obstruct the button.
We must pay homage to him.
But there you guys have it. Hope you guys like how the jacket turned out. Me personally, I like it. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Not a 10, mainly because the hand stitches on the back side, I kind of wish I put a little bit more thought into it. I kind of just rushed that part. Like I was honestly drawing a blank when I got there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do whatever, and then that's whatever. But it does look fine with the crossed arrows layered on top of it, so regardless, it's still fine. Now, one thing I'm really proud of, well, there's actually like another thing too, but the main one is this left chest pocket. To me, it doesn't look like I just slapped a piece of fabric on and then just like randomly sewed it in. Like you can tell that, you know, I put some time and effort into it. Look at that. It looks nice. Ooh, I mean, I think it looks nice. And then of course, you know, the crossed arrow design. Now, I'm not 100% sure about like the whole sizing and proportions of this design because I've never actually like, you know, held and examined a real off-white hoodie. So all of this was just like by eye from just like looking at pictures online, and I think I did a pretty good job. But anyways, if you guys like this video, make sure to drop a like, hit that sub button too, I'd really appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram at Julius Nathan. And also if you guys are interested in DIYing and you guys want to meet other people who are also interested in DIYing, join my Discord. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. But anyways, I catch you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace.